Welcome to Tea with Tanya podcast. Every week, I'll be brewing up a perfect blend of public health stories, which will include maternal and reproductive health, career and academic advice, self-love, health, and wellness tips. Join me, your host, Tanya. I'm a public health professional working in maternal health. I'm a birth and postpartum doula, a placenta encapsulation specialist, and certified lactation counselor by day. And I'm your average tea-loving millennial and content creator by night. So pour yourself up a cup of tea and join me in the tea tasting room for your weekly dose of inspiration where you are the center of our conversation. This podcast is here to serve you. So come take a sip with me and let's start promoting positive living together. Hey. Welcome back to Tea with Tanya. Thank you for joining me here in the tea tasting room today. I hope wherever you are listening, you're in good spirits, but I am sending you positive energy, positive vibes as you listen to this podcast. As we get ready to wrap up the month of April, can you believe we're in April already? Like, time is flying like crazy. Not really arguing with that because, that means the best month is coming, which is essentially May, my birth month. So definitely I'm excited, looking forward to next month. But time is just really fun, and it continues to show that time waits on no man. And that's why we have to spend time doing things that we love. Anyway, as we wrap up this series, I want to talk about growth and I want to talk about discipline, because that has been something that has been on my heart for a long time. For a while now, I've been thinking, I'm sitting when I'm doing my self-reflection, I'm realizing that I have grown. I always say I have come a long way from where I was from then versus now. And when I think about that, when I think back, I think about, wow, Tanya, you have really grown. You have grown even in the way you think, in the way in which you do things, in the way in which you utilize your time as well. But let me take it back before I got to where I am now, because even though I am where I am now, there's still a lot more room for improvement. But I remember growing up, again in Antigua, always having a routine. You go to school, you have maybe after classes, or I had some sort of sport activity or event to attend after school. And that was my routine for a long time. I would go to dance class, I would go to netball, I would do whatever it is I had to do. And I had a routine, came home, took a shower, eat dinner, do homework. That was my routine for a long time. Then I migrated to the US several years ago, developed a new routine. But for some reason, I think that my discipline just went out the window, especially my discipline when it came to exercise or physical activity. Because like I said, growing up in Antigua, I was very active, very athletic in these things. And then when I moved here, my discipline that was it. There was no working out. There was nothing. And of course, I've worked out here and there, and I've developed a routine, and I fell off the wagon. You know how it is. But as I'm thinking back on my life in recent times, especially when it comes to this podcast, especially, I realized that I was hiding. I was hiding who I truly am to you guys. If I can be honest, I've been really hiding who I was or who I am to you because of fear of judgment, or even fear of even putting in and doing the work. Because let me tell you, having a podcast is no easy feat. And I'll be honest, one of the reasons why I chose the podcast route was because it was audio. And I thought to myself, I don't have to face for YouTube. YouTube takes a lot more editing and all these different things you have to do to have a high functioning YouTube page. And just having a podcast was just was my easier way out, but also because I am a person who actually listens to podcasts on a regular. So that was one of my, I was like, you know what, let me go to a podcast the audio way, because I do listen to them, and it just seemed like it would have been easier for me to manage. But my friend, let me tell you, that was a lie. It is not an easy task. And that is because I didn't have the disciplined mindset to acknowledge or accept that it does take time, and this is not no plaything. This is not a joke. I think that's why I had many start and stop process or moments in having this Tea with Tanya podcast. When I first started, I think I uploaded the first episode November of 2020. It was a recording of a live episode for my Instagram live series, with potential or with hope to launch in 2021, which I essentially did. I will say I had no direction. I just know I wanted to talk about every single thing that I could. I had no vision in a sense. I had a vision, but I just didn't have a clear vision. Let me put it that way. I didn't have a clear vision. I was trying to be like other people. I was trying to fit in. I was trying to, again, stray away from what I was initially passionate about. You listen to these podcasts and you see how well they're doing, or you think you see how well they're doing, I will say, and you may admire a person. And what I came to realize is that being inspired by someone and trying to be a person or be exactly like someone are two different things. And I think at one point in time in this podcasting world, I can be transparent and honest because I don't want to pretend. The podcast that I will listen to, I was trying to emulate them exactly the way they did it. One, I am not them. I don't have that personality, or that was not my area of expertise or what I really wanted to talk about. So I remember just wanting to be exactly like them. So I was not putting in the work that I needed to let my podcast be unique and stand out and just be who I truly am. And that's why my podcast, in a sense, fell off at one point in 2021 into 2022 because I just lacked that discipline, lacked that commitment, to be quite honest as well. And I thought, okay, how am I going to be my authentic self? How am I going to grow my community? So you know what I did? I reached out to several individuals, one to get an audit on my podcast, to get help with how I could go about, quote unquote, or in a sense, rebranding Tea with Tanya to incorporate all the things that I am passionate about, but not stray away from who I am. And I invested, and I will say, investing in yourself, and I always say this, and I forgot who was the person who told me this, but investing in yourself is costly. It is costly, but it is so worth it. I invested in that podcast retreat, got my vision. My vision became more clear. I was understood. I knew where I was going, who I am, and who I was as a person in this podcast world and as a person in life in general. Did that, made connection with another beautiful soul that we work very closely with this podcast, as she has encouraged me, she has pushed me. And because of her, that's the reason why I've been that disciplined as far as cranking out episodes every week for you. I've been recording ahead of time to give myself time to do what I want to do. And I think, to be honest as well, I didn't know what community building would look like for me because coming from the Instagram live series, I had built a pretty good community on the Instagram live, but then I think I had difficulties translating to the podcast. I have some faithful ones, but I think there was a disconnect somewhere in my mind. I could probably be wrong, but there was a disconnect in my mind. And then I had this issue of hiding my accent. And I'm not sure if I've spoken about this because if you hear an accent, yes, I am from Antigua. I have it. We talk about code switching, but I am who I am, and I can no longer hide that. I am speaking English. I am speaking proper English. So there's no need for me to hide my accent. And I remember one time I was in nursing school and we were doing our clinicals and, we had to go to the units and deal with actual patients. And I remember I used to be that student who was just shy, who would follow along around my other nursing students, and they were much more braver than me. And it wasn't that I wasn't brave. It was just that I felt for some reason, some type of way relating to my accent living in a southern state. And let me tell you, coming from up north in New Jersey, New York, then going down to Virginia for nursing school, that was a whole different ball game, to be quite honest. And I remember hiding my accent, and I remember she told me, she said, Tanya, you don't need to hide your accent. That's going to be unique to you. That's how you're going to build rapport with your patients. So never ever hide who you are, and especially don't hide that beautiful accent. And of course, since then, I decided not to, but there have been moments where I have done that. Sometimes, even still to this day, I'm going to be honest, but I'm just more conscious now where I'm like, okay, I am speaking English. I am going to be who I am. You're going to tell me my accent is beautiful, or you're going to tell me to repeat myself. Whatever you tell me, but I am who I am. So that was also a fear that I had with this podcast. Crazy, right? Here's a girl wanting to have a podcast to build this community with you and with you involved, and I am hiding who I am, or I'm hiding my accent. And then I also struggle with exposing myself in a sense where, I have to be vulnerable, I have to be real. How much is too much to share? But then I cannot be relatable if I cannot share who I am. And, I found a way where I can share who I am, but at the same time, not tell you every single thing, you know? So I think I was masking behind the podcast of having multiple guests or even straying away from doing solo episodes because I was not entirely sure how to make myself or make the podcast feel personal or personable to you guys. And I had to realize, and that's when I decided, you know what, kind of get it together. The latter half of 2022, I invested in myself, invested in my podcast because I made a promise to myself that my podcast was going to be an outlet, not only for me, but of course for you. I wanted to educate, I wanted to empower, I wanted to laugh, I wanted to be real, talk about all the different things that makes up my life, makes up our life, that we can relate. Growing up in this crazy world as a millennial. And when I made that switch, I remember in January, when I started off with the mindfulness series, and then I went into my maternal health series, and I remember quite a few individuals actually telling me that one day, they commended me for my consistency because, guys, this is the most consistent I have been since Tea with Tanya has been around. This is the most consistent I have been, and I am so proud of myself that it may not sound like in my voice, but I am so proud. This is the most consistent that I have been, and I am now growing and I am becoming more and more disciplined, not only with the podcast, but this has trickled on into every area of my life. But anyway, I remember, being told, you're talking about maternal health. That's not my cup of tea. Or, I support you, but I see that you're doing or recording episodes that doesn't necessarily relate to me. And I remember in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, I feel like it does, or it can relate to you in some way, shape, or form. But you know what? I had to quickly realize that I won't be everyone's cup of tea, no pun intended. I won't be everyone's cup of tea, and that is fine. And it's always good to get feedback, whether it may not be what I want to hear. And most times the feedbacks are usually constructive. So then that's fine. That's fine. So if you're listening to this podcast and my podcast in some way, shape, or form has resonated with you and you still find value in coming back to listen to this podcast, I just want to say thank you and I do appreciate you. No, I feel like I have spoken a little bit. This has been a long intro, but nevertheless, now I think about individuals who are my peers who are having children. Some of us are just growing in our career. And I realize that as I'm getting older, my goals are shifting and my intentions are also changing. I'm now very, very mindful. And I feel like I've always been mindful, but now I'm actually practicing. I'm very mindful of how I spend my time because I realize time is going really fast. I mentioned earlier that my birthday is next month and I'm turning 33 and I'm like, wow, when did this happen? I was just literally 16, being taken care of by my parents in a way that I had no responsibilities, no care in the world about life as far as having any other responsibility. So time is going fast and I realize that I have to be intentional with how I spend my time. And because I lack discipline, I ended up not even being my true, authentic self. So I definitely want to change that. And I have changed that. And I'm still a work in progress, like we all are. So that's definitely a struggle from time to time. So I want to talk about self-discipline. Self-discipline is the ability to control our thoughts, our emotions, and our actions in order to achieve our goals. It is really a valuable skill that can help us succeed both in our personal and professional lives. And I've been realizing that more and more and more. But I will say it's not easy to maintain because many of us struggle with it, including myself. I struggle, let me tell you, I struggle with self-discipline. I will be disciplined about something for an entire week. And then the following week, I would have fallen off the wagon, trying to get back on track, trying to figure out, girl, when or how did you get here? So I will say it's important to set clear goals. And I know you've probably heard this before. We got to set clear goals because if you don't, like me, for instance, with me in this podcast, I didn't have a clear goal at the time and I was just all over the place. Things wasn't really working out the way I imagined it working out in my head for my podcast. And it wasn't until I got clear with my goals and set clear goals and found a way to stay motivated and disciplined. So once you set your goals, we want to break them down into smaller tasks. tasks that we can manage. Because let me tell you, my to-do list or my task list used to be very long, and then I would end up getting overwhelmed from my own list. So I definitely had to start using the process of breaking them down into smaller tasks. So you definitely want to establish a routine. Some may have a morning routine, a routine for when you're at work, or a routine at night. For me, I have a morning routine. I have a routine when I'm at my 9 to 5. And sometimes I do have a planner, but I've been finding that when I write things on post-its, when I'm breaking the tasks down and I'm writing them on post-its, I tend to actually accomplish said task. Ironic, right? When I write these things on my post-its, I definitely get things done. So think about establishing a routine, what that routine looks like for you for each day. Each day is not going to look the same. So think about how your routine can look for each day, both in the morning, when you're at work, and when you're at night. And this will help you to develop good habits, and you'll continue to make small progress towards your goal. And think about eliminating distractions as well. I've been practicing, I think I mentioned this in an earlier podcast, I've been practicing the Pomodoro technique, where I put my phone down, put that little timer on for, I think it's either 20 or 25 minutes, and I try to get as much work done in that 25-minute time frame before picking my phone up. Because I'm sure I'm guilty. I'll pick my phone up, get on TikTok or some other app, and I just start scrolling aimlessly most times. So I've been very mindful with that. I use the Pomodoro method. Every 25 minutes, I have to get something accomplished. So you definitely want to work on eliminating distractions. Put that phone on do not disturb. Decide what time you're going to check email, what time you're going to respond, and what time you're going to utilize your social media as well. And I came across something that said another way that you can essentially prioritize your task, and that's something I'm gonna look into. It says you can use the 80-20 rule to focus on the 20% of the task that will bring you 80% of the results. And that should also help you to stay focused on being productive. And another way that you want to be able to be self-disciplined is to find an accountability partner. For me, that's as it relates to this podcast, that is my podcast editor. She stays on top of me. I have no room for slacking off anymore. The days I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna record this podcast episode today because I'm tired or I'm being lazy. No, because now it's not only me, but I have to ensure that I'm getting my episodes to her in a decent time, because I am not her only client as well. So she also holds me accountable as we plan our episodes for each month, and ensuring that the episodes are being recorded in a timely manner. So you may want to have someone who can hold you accountable and share the same work ethic and same values as you as well. And you can just check in regularly to make sure that you're staying on track. And also you want to just check in with yourself. Ask yourself, how am I spending my time? You have control over the things that you can focus on. And also, where am I giving my focus? Where or who am I giving my focus to? So if your time and your focus is not in alignment, then discipline is going to be hard to achieve. And then you're also going to have a difficult time trying to achieve your goals. And that's what has happened to me in the past. But now that I've been more mindful with how I'm managing my time, who I'm giving my time, I have become more and more disciplined. Like, for instance, one of my morning routines is meditation. There was a point in time where I was meditating just for the sake of meditating, because it was a cool thing to do, or it was something for me to tick off on my trackers to what I did today. But no, I had to get disciplined with actually practicing the art of meditating. And when I did that, I did see a change in my breath work and in how I am as a person and how I approach, certain things. So definitely want to find ways in which you can help yourself, ways in which you can become more disciplined. If you're a person that needs to lose weight, or you want to be fit, or you want to be physically active, what are you going to do? Are you going to go walking every day? Are you going to sign up for a gym membership? Like, what are we going to do as it relates to discipline? So before I go, I just want to share quickly some ways in which you can create discipline. So you want to create a bedtime or a nighttime routine, which could be going to bed at a decent time, because that's going to help you. both physical and mentally. Because let me tell you, the days when I go to sleep late or I can't turn my brain off, I really do end up waking up extremely exhausted most times. So you want to create a bedtime and nighttime routine, going to bed at a decent time so that you can be physically and mentally fit. Because sometimes I tend to forget things because my nighttime routine is not consistent. So that could look like doing your skincare routine, having a glass of wine, whatever it is, and then going to bed at a decent time for you so that you can be productive the very next day. Trying to write things down instead of trying to remember everything in your head. Document and breaking down your task into the simpler version of your different tasks. Because one thing about me, I love to write, and I'm always writing everything down because I'm of the mindset that if I don't write it down, it's not going to happen. But there have been moments where I am trying to keep everything in my head, and especially when you're in the shower. I don't know about you, when you're in the shower and your best ideas come to mind, and I'll be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna get out of the shower, I'm gonna write it down, and when I'm done driving, I'm gonna write it down. Nope, I don't always do that, and then when I come back now, trying to remember what I was supposed to write down, I can't. So definitely you want to learn to start writing things down and breaking down your task, or documenting and breaking it down into simpler tasks. And think about, what can I do to make my life easier? Maybe you may need to outsource, if you're in that position, to outsource laundry or food services or a cleaning service, whatever it is that's going to bring you ease. Think about how can you make your life easier and outsource. Again, if you're in the position to do that. Think about, stop self-sabotaging yourself. I have done that. I have allowed self-doubt and imposter syndrome and all these, thinking I don't belong, or I'm not worthy, or I don't know, or I'm not educated enough on certain things when in fact I am. So figure out a way how to stop self-sabotaging. And you can do that by, repeating affirmations when it comes to discipline, or those affirmations for confidence or motivation, whatever it is. I mentioned I use post-it. Even though I have a planner, I still use post-its to break my task down into a simpler version. So I can, as I'm taking off on the post-it, once the post-it is complete, then I can go to my bigger task. You want to repeat these affirmations and repeat this routine daily. And anytime you see your mirror, you definitely want to look into that mirror and repeat an affirmation about yourself. These are what I've been doing to keep me on track, to ensure that I am focused, to continue to grow and become more disciplined in what I'm doing. Because, I started the series with talking about how to find a balance with a side hustle. And I've had someone talk about how they find balance as a mom and a wife, and finding, building their career. It's a lot. We are doing a lot. We are in the day and age now when we want to do it all. And if we can do it all. But we have to ensure that we have the vision, we have that growth mindset, and we have that self-discipline. And the self-discipline to not only accomplish all these different things about school, work, and being a content creator, but the self-discipline to know when it's time to take a break or take a step back from what you're doing, to actually rest and love and focus on yourself. We can talk about balance. I think I did a poll on my Instagram the other day, and someone responded to me saying, how about just finding balance because our life does not revolve around work? Or someone say, setting boundaries, and then those boundaries will essentially help to find balance. And, I found those to be some interesting but very good things to think about. So think about creating that routine. Think about how creating a good routine, especially a good nighttime routine, can have a positive effect both physically and mentally for you. Learn to write things down so that you can remember it, because we're at the age that, listen to me, we're getting old, okay? We can't keep everything in this brain. So we gotta definitely write it down. Think about how you can simplify your task to ensure that you can be successful and accomplish the bigger tasks. Think about what you can do or how you can make your life easier. Outsource if that's possible, or decide what days of the week you would be able to dedicate your time to accomplishing certain tasks. And the biggest one for me is to just stop self-sabotaging. Just know that you are that girl. You are that girl. Okay? Beyonce said it best. She's that girl. I'm that girl. You listening here, you're that girl. Definitely stop self-sabotaging. And definitely you want to repeat your affirmations daily. And I know sometimes like, oh, who wants to repeat an affirmation daily? I can tell you. A wise person once told me, and this was a time when I was suffering well, I don't want to say suffering. I had a little bit of an issue with my self-esteem and how I was looking. And this person told me every time you pass a mirror, you should affirm yourself and say something positive about yourself. And to this, let me tell you, when I say it works, it worked. And to this day, I still do it. And I've passed that tradition or that trick down to my younger sisters. Every time you pass a mirror, say something to affirm yourself. And if you don't take anything else away from this episode, I definitely want you to know, stop self-sabotaging yourself. And every time you see a mirror, or just in general, when you feel like you're having a down moment, just repeat some affirmations to give you that boost of confidence and that boost that you need. These are what helps me to stay on track. And I hope this, as we wrap up this series, you are able to take away something from this episode and from this series as well. Thank you for joining me here in the tea tasting room. I look forward to seeing you guys next month. The next time you're going to hear from me, we're going to be in the best month, and that is the month of May. Thank you for joining me here in the tea tasting room, and I'll see you next week here.